I would now like to introduce Evangeline Berube. Evangeline is a branch manager with Robert Half in Edmonton. She'll give you a bit more of her bio, but what I want you to all know is that she's got 15 years of experience in the recruitment industry, witnessing all phases of the job market cycle firsthand, a real voice to be listened to. Her presentation is entitled Hiring and Onboarding, Then and Now, followed by a moderated Q&A.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Evangeline Berube, and I am the branch manager of our senior level consulting practice in Edmonton, Management Resources. I have worked with Robert Half for 15 years, and I have seen a number of different business cycles. However, 2020 was certainly unique. It presented challenges for both companies and employees with respect to hiring and finding employment, respectively. Today, I'm going to run through a before and after snapshot with you and with respect to what did hiring and onboarding look like pre and then post-COVID, as well as provide you tips to help you navigate this new hiring environment. So as mentioned, in my discussion today, we will cover the recruiting landscape pre-COVID-19. Then we will look at the recruiting environment now in a remote environment. And lastly, we will close with looking at some general hiring trends we are seeing. So let's get started. So what did hiring look like pre-COVID-19? When companies were going to hire, they would post an ad on various different websites like LinkedIn, for example, attend career fairs, network, utilize professional recruiting firms like Robert Half, as well as get personal recommendations. Through these efforts, they would receive resumes, shortlist, maybe do a pre-screening call, and then continue to shortlist to their top prospects, then set up in-person interviews. Once decisions were made as to who they were wanting to hire, they would then coordinate the person's first day in the office and run through onboarding process with them, introduce them to the team, select them a mentor or buddy, take them out for an introductory lunch, and quite often provide them some sort of company swag. Their technology would be largely set up when they started, but would often require some continued setup, and this was usually done with some assistance. Now, what is consistent through all of this is the elements of the in-person touchpoints. And in this process, the in-person interview was critical to gauging whether someone was a good personality fit for the organization. And in the old normal, remote work was more of a benefit and a request, but likely now you will see this integrated into organizational structures overall. What does this mean to you? Well, clients are going to start assessing people's ability to work productively in a remote environment, and they will be doing that throughout their recruitment process. Now, as mentioned earlier, the hiring process has moved to being done largely remotely. This has definitely changed how companies seek and hire recruits and how you as recruits are able to find new roles. With most hiring managers working remotely and larger gatherings not possible, things such as networking and career fairs are no longer options to utilize to find employment. And clients are predominantly starting to tap their networks to find talent before they even post a job ad. So again, what does this mean to you? Well, first, I would reach out to your former employers to let them know you're looking, as you could be that exact person they happen to be looking for. Also, let your network know you are looking and what you're specifically looking for, and that's really important. so they can refer you in the case they become aware of any role that might be a nice match in their network. I would also suggest joining groups on LinkedIn related to your area of expertise. That way you can still network online and get your name out there. And if you are applying to roles online, ensure you have your resume customized to what the job posting highlights. Now, that doesn't mean you're adding experience that you don't have, but it does mean that you use the same narrative as is shown in the web ad. This is to highlight your experience that ties to what the job ad is actually asking for. And this will help your profile get through any of the talent acquisition systems that clients have for screening resumes, helping you land an interview. Now, I also wanted to touch on remote interviews, as there are some best practices that will help you shine. First, don't try to wing it. Ask for the details ahead of time. Who is going to place the call? What online meeting platform will you be using, etc. When they give you the names of individuals that are joining the interview, look them up on LinkedIn so you know a bit about them before the meeting. And also, no different than any other interview or an in-person interview, make sure you do your research on the company and know the job description so you come across as interested and really prepared. And prepare your technology to avoid any glitches. Conduct a trial run of your video conferencing platform a day or so beforehand, giving yourself enough time to adapt if something isn't working. And further to that, have a backup plan. Ask the client for a phone number or an email just in case the virtual platform doesn't work. Because technology is wonderful, but it isn't always reliable. And minimize distractions. Switch off alerts and chats during the interview and make sure any other people you live with know they're not to bother you outside of an emergency while you're doing the interview. Now, as we move into more of a remote world, again, as I mentioned previously, clients are going to be looking for some additional traits in candidates. So you may want to highlight these in the interview where it makes sense. They're going to look for people that are reasonably tech savvy. They're used to taking the initiative on projects, people that are good problem solvers, and expert and frequent communicators. Because if there's one thing we found in the remote world is that communication is really, really key. And in a video interview, clients are going to still be assessing your personality fit with the organization, similar to they would have done in an in-person interview. So they're still going to be looking at questions like, our company's core mission is X. What does that mean to you? What drives you to succeed as a professional and to keep learning new things? What management styles do you thrive under? Tell me about the best project you've worked on and what made it work so well. What does teamwork mean to you? How well do you adapt to change? And that's a big one right now. And what 3 qualities do you think make you a good fit for this job as well as this organization? I also wanted to touch on onboarding in a remote environment, as it is quite different. So these are some of the things you can expect. Now, the clients are going to focus on setting you up properly ahead of your start date, or at least they should. They will try to get all the technical aspects looked after, like email, internet access, and other credentials. And if you will be using their company equipment and are local, they will be making arrangements for something like a curbside pickup, that sort of thing. And if you will be using your own equipment, they will send you information on how to access their systems and servers securely. They will likely also set up a video conference, your first day, and introduce you to the team. The team will likely say something about themselves and briefly describe their role in the group so you can get to know everyone. They may also pair you with a work buddy to help support you as you learn about the team and the organization. Many organizations are doing more of this, particularly now in a remote environment, because it's harder for you to navigate things. They will likely also set up calls or meetings to train you online. And don't despair, you also still may receive some of that company swag. It's just going to maybe come to you via courier now. Now, given this, some organizations are doing some work out of their offices. So you may find you are working part-time remotely, sometimes in the office. So they may want you to come into the office, on your first day, particularly to get you set up. So in these times, being able to adapt with organizations is imperative, because organizations are really working hard to try to navigate this current environment. So we really recommend you be patient, understanding, and very adaptable. So now, some general hiring trends as we move into 2021. Now, I've broken these down into 4 areas. I'll talk about the impacts of technology, educational impacts, again, some general industry trends, where are we seeing most activity in terms of industries, and adaptation to a remote work environment. So first, impacts of technology. Before COVID, we saw technology becoming more prevalent in all areas of an organization, and also started to see the impact on individual roles. Now, since COVID hit, so roughly around March of 2020, we have seen this trend be expedited, as organizations have been forced to have their employees work from home, etc. So what does this mean to you? Well, it means that you are going to need to be brushing up on your technology skills and be open to adapting to whatever new technology is put in front of you. Most roles in an organizational setting are now going to require that you are learning or using different technologies. For example, with administrative roles, you may be asked to help train and be the first line of defense by being a technology troubleshooter for the office, as well as assisting different departments with reports compiled in different reporting tools. If you're an accountant, you may be asked to do some programming in Power BI to assist in analysis type work. If you're in HR, you may be asked to partner in HRIS system implementations, as all records are put online. So no matter what your role, you're going to be learning new technology skills. Now, educational impacts. What we are seeing, and I would say definitely over the past 5 years, is that post-secondary education, whether it's a 2-year program, 4-year program, is becoming a must. Depending on what type of work you're wanting to pursue, you will have to have some post-secondary background in that area. And as mentioned previously, experience or even a certificate in some technologies will also be important. Again, particularly related to your role. And in addition, some roles are going to require designations, like accounting. So if that's your plan and you want to pursue that accounting, then that should be a part of your career path and plan. So now just some general industry trends. We are seeing all industries, including oil and gas, hiring. In the last quarter of 2020, we saw hiring at the same level or higher than the same time in 2019, which was really encouraging. That being said, some industries seem to be hiring a bit more than others. We're seeing public sector and non-for-profit, tech companies, post-secondary, agricultural service and distribution organizations, and even construction is now seeing some growth. And then last, just to speak on adaptation to a remote work environment. Some employers are looking to cut down on some costs, such as overhead office expenses, with allowing their employees to work from home and implementing some desk sharing sort of situations. So what does this mean to you? Well, it's important to ensure that you can work from home if needed. Again, your ability to adapt is going to be really important, and it's going to better your chances for success. So that concludes my presentation today, and now I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.